Okay, what do you got? What do
This
you
is
got?
what it's like in the writers'
This is exactly
On Beverly
I've
Hilton
got an
Stationery.
idea.
Very nice,
an
very
idea.
fancy.
Besides clowning.
Yes, clowning. Let's clown. Here, I'm writing the word clown.
Cancer, odds are in the circus.
And it starts with a C. Look at that
Anyway,
clown and
that's
cancer.
how we work.
Very
That's
awesome.
how we work.
Well, I do like how humorous you guys are personally, in addition to what you've set up for the show. Now is the right time to find the humor in something as serious as cancer.
That question, why now?
Well, maybe you can speak more specifically to the cancer portion of it, but I will say specifically, I think it's always a good time to put comedy on top of darker situations. I said earlier, MASH was my favorite show growing up, and I just think that comedy is the most funny when you can use it to get you out of a darker situation, when you really need to laugh. So that's what I think, and I'm hoping people will take from this show that even though it deals with a pretty serious subject, we can keep some smiles on people's faces.
Right. And to go into the cancer topic a little bit more now, was there a specific reason you wanted to give Laura's character melanoma instead of, breast cancer or ovarian cancer? Or
We wanted a cancer that would allow us to, well, first of all, melanoma is something where treatment, especially late-stage melanoma, which is what she has, there aren't a lot of treatments for it. Because what we knew we didn't want to do was wit. We didn't want to do a show about treatment. We want to do a show about a woman living her life. The other thing about melanoma is it often doesn't show up physically for a long time, because we also knew we didn't want to kind of hobble her physically or change that part of her life too quickly. And so this was a disease that fit a lot of the direction that we were going in. And it's a disease that a lot of people are getting. And so we also felt like it was very relatable from that perspective.
Right. And more fun things for you guys to write. Some of the more like wacky antic scenes that she gets into.
In a general way, I think anytime she says exactly what she's thinking to someone, it's fun to write and fun to watch. Just in that way of how many times during a day, during a week, do you find yourself maybe talking to someone with bad breath and you're thinking in your head, gosh, I say something, maybe I shouldn't say anything, I can't wait to get away. But just that idea that she often verbalizes
Darlene,
now.
why don't you just tell me then?
I don't know if it's coffee, I don't know what you had.
This is awkward that you're doing it on camera.
I'm just saying, but I feel better.
But you see, she feels better.
I feel better.
She feels better.
But I think Kathy having that unique ability to be extra honest and say what's on her mind is always sort of fun to write and see.
Yeah, and her taking chances, I think, for me, it was fun to see her take out, or she will be taking all of her money out of her 401k and buying a sports car, which is just fun. Stealing a lobster and setting it free.
Walking naked into the backyard was sort of personal fantasy that she lived out in character for me.
So now in writing the show and in writing all these moments for the character of Kathy, do you guys find yourselves saying, you know what, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z in your own life?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all, in fact, Laura even said that the other day. She said, you know what, I've never taken a really long vacation. I've never gone to Hawaii. I'm going to Hawaii. Like, there are things that you don't allow yourself to do in your life when you think you have all the time in the world, and you don't always.
When I was doing research on the pilot, I sat down with a cancer survivor and was just chatting and doing some research, and I was asking him that same question, is if after he got diagnosed, did he do anything extra fun or extra exciting? And he was like, well, kind of weird, but I bought a really expensive vacuum cleaner that I didn't need, which was kind of kooky. And then the next day he emailed me and he said, he's like, I'm writing you from Disneyland. After our conversation, I realized I should have done more fun things and more spur of the moment things, and so he had gone to Disneyland.
Did you take the vacuum cleaner with you?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the vacuum cleaner.
I know that was an odd one.
But I also personally, I started a remodel on my house that was probably a few years away, and I told my husband, like, let's come up with the money. Let's just do it now.
Right.
I do a lot more traveling now. Since I was diagnosed, I do a lot more traveling, which I love to do.
Since she was diagnosed with the show.
With the show. I was diagnosed with the big C.
Writing the different relationships, because obviously with her compartmentalizing her life, how she relates to people, at least what I've seen so far, she's very upfront with everyone, but at the same time she's keeping a secret from some of the biggest people in her life. So Has that been a challenge for you guys? Did you find yourselves wanting to spill it all right away?
You know, we had a lot of kind of, not fights in the writer's room, but really strong kind of disagreements, which always indicates it's a good story, I think, when people have different points of view about it, because we wanted to be true about what she would do and not necessarily what feels comfortable as a writer. You know, hey, let's just tell everybody and get it out, and then we can deal with it.
And we don't like her if she's holding a secret, and we had to deal with, well, do we need to like her? Do we want to like her?
We just had to believe her in the moments where she was making that choice. And I think in the end, the first season does exactly what it should do. The people who need to know when they need to know it, know it.
Okay.
But we don't push to have everybody know at the same time.
Right.
But I think also all the characters have sort of different dynamics, and her relationships with them are all different. So I think we all have a lot of fun sort of just exploring each of the uniqueness of those relationships and where she wants to take them and where they go unexpectedly. Her brother, for example, someone she's been semi-estranged from, and how they grow closer is an important part of the first season, and just a relationship that I love writing.
Now, you also mentioned that Cynthia Nixon's character will be one of her friends from college. So will we see her reaching out to anyone else from her past? Not maybe telling them what's going on with her, but do we see her get nostalgic and say, oh, I wish I could say whatever to whoever?
We've talked about doing that now for the second season, playing some of that in the second season, because we definitely have those stories lined up. We know, just in our fantasy, who we'd want to reconnect with or re-find, and so we're going to have a little fun with that.
Okay.
And Cynthia Nixon's character is fun because she comes back, and then we get to see kind of who Kathy was before she sort of put on her comfortable shoes and got a little sedentary in her life, and maybe quit being the wild Kathy that gets referenced in the pilot.
And now, as writers, do you find that you are writing certain characters differently because of who's cast?
Well, during the casting process, I always say that I want to find someone who does something a little bit surprising, so it doesn't just do the lines and maybe even the way I expected them to go, but does something a little different, because ideally in series you want to start writing to the actor's voice so they can take something off the page and make even more of it. So I like to think that we kind of, now we're sort of hearing their voices in our head.
Yeah, there's a lot of osmosis now that I think happens. We hear their rhythms and they know our rhythms, and we found a way, I think, that's cleaner to write for them.
Okay, and do you have like a dream guest star that you'd love to write for?
We've already gotten
We
some
have so
dreams
many.
fulfilled.
I have to say, this is kind of a writer's wet dream to work with this many great actors, and then they'll be like, oh hey, now you get Liam Neeson. Like, okay, on top of Gabby and Laura and Oliver and John, it's kind of been insane.